A miserable pile of secrets!
Also known as Synergy Bonus.
There we go.
Jeez.
All right.
I'm right. I'm fine. We are three guys that like to drink a lot and talk about video games. Emphasis on the drinking, apparently.
And the video games.
We barely even started drinking tonight.
Plausible deniability, man.
No.
What are we drinking tonight, gentlemen?
I am drinking a Warsteiner Dunkel as our...
Dunkelweizen, yeah.
As is.
And...
yeah.
And I'm having Shiner Bock Strawberry Blonde, which tastes fairly berry-esque.
It smells of Swedish fish.
And it does not taste of strawberries. I'm not impressed.
The Dunkel here, I'm getting notes of chocolate. Trav mentioned a little bit of coffee and smoke. It's very smoky.
Yeah, I don't have the chocolate in there at all. I've got a very, very strong coffee taste, very smoky finish, very smooth.
It is very smooth.
This is definitely A+. Would recommend. 5 out of 5 would buy again.
Definitely getting the coffee and a little bit of the chocolate. Burnt coffee, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
or like really dark roast, maybe.
Like super dark roast. Oh, yeah. God, that'd be good for the caffeine content.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
Well, talking about dark things, we're going to be talking about Symphony of the Night.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night, 1997 from...
Konami. You make me sad nowadays. You used to be so good.
From the days before they made us sad.
To be fair, most companies that we used to like make us sad nowadays.
Squaresoft's actually oddly
They're starting to step it up.
Yeah.
Starting to.
They've made their mistakes and they're kind of pulling themselves out of their hole.
We'll see. Time will tell. But
another day.
Castlevania.
I'll be happy with Square Squeenix when they stop knock it off with the Bishi crap.
Yeah, you got to get rid of their new creative art dev.
I am perfectly fine with that.
He's the guy they've had since FF7.
But right now we're talking about Konami and Castlevania and a really good game.
Mostly good game.
Really good game.
Sequel to Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles Rondo of Blood.
Direct sequel.
Yep. Rondo of Blood.
So you were saying earlier the spiritual successor to...
I was saying that spiritual successor to Castlevania 3 due to the characters in the cast.
Yep. And this game had a misleading intro stage. It said final stage, Bloodlines.
Not really misleading.
A lot of people did think it was the final stage from Castlevania Bloodlines, the final stage in Rondo of Blood is just labeled Bloodlines.
And the actual track for that stage is also called Divine Bloodlines.
So it was kind of banking on the fact that you played the previous game before.
Which,
if you were in the U.S., you were fucked.
No one in the U.S. did at the time.
Well, unless you played Dracula or Vampire Kiss.
And even the ending of that is nowhere. It's completely different.
Or you had a ton of money and you imported the Japanese version.
Yep.
Localization.
Which Rondo of Blood came out on the PC Engine TurboGrafx 16 disc drive. So it had very limited audience. But Symphony came out, and it was the game that gave us Metroidvania.
The brainchild of Igarashi.
It did what...
Koji Igarashi for the uninitiated.
It did what Castlevania 2 was trying to do, and it ran with it and scored big, honestly, and
it redefined the genre.
It did. It really did.
For the better.
Because at that point, Castlevania was actually kind of floundering as a genre for Konami. They tried a new direction, and it actually worked.
Which was surprising, because at the time, it was 97, it was the same time that we got, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time had just come out. Final Fantasy 7. There's this big push for these 3D, open-worldish kind of games. And Castlevania went, we could... Or...
We tried that with 64.
Yeah, it didn't work out so well. Even then, that wasn't really open world. It's very linear.
But they went with the 2D route. It's a very gorgeous looking 2D game.
2.5D because there's also some enemies that are 3-dimensional.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
But a lot of background, foreground stuff. And it works. It works very well. Unlike normal Castlevanias, normally you play a Belmont. You wield your whip, You go kill demons. It's what you do.
No vampire killer in this one.
Well,
It does show up.
It starts with it. You start as Richter Belmont, the hero of Rondo of Blood, as we mentioned. And the game very much opens with the final stage from, I almost said Bloodlines, final stage of Rondo of Blood.
Spam Hydrostorm.
Where Richter kills Dracula.
Or
Spamming Hydrostorm.
Or being a man and not using any items or weapons.
How many years later does this take place after Rondo?
Why would you want to be a miserable
8
person?
years? 2 or 5. I might be 8. I can't remember.
We just had the timeline. You could have looked that up.
Yeah, I don't have it here.
I think it's 5 years.
Regardless, we'll figure it out.
But,
Exactly.
during the night, Richter disappears and Castlevania appears. And Maria Renard goes to go find him. And Alucard wakes up, realizing that there's trouble in the homeland, and he goes to the castle himself. And you play as Alucard.
He woke up because, hey, my dad's castle's here. That can't be good.
Can't be good.
Mm-hmm. It was something along the lines of, canonically, it was like, he woke up, like, Dad's castle's here, the Belmonts will handle it. He hits a snooze alarm, or the vampiric snooze alarm, rolls over a few years later, goes, castle's still here.
Well, initially the castle appeared because the Dark Priest Shaft was trying to resurrect Dracula.
Rondo of Blood, 1792. Symphony of the Night, 1797. 5 years.
5 years. So. But what entails after that is a very fantastic adventure. It's a relatively long Castlevania game, actually.
Especially with that hidden inverted castle thing.
Yep, the inverted castle. The RPG elements make it so there's multiple endings.
There's tons
It also means that you're going to be grinding zombies and skeletons for a long time.
Don't have to.
Don't have to.
There's also tons of throwbacks to different parts of the series and different artifacts you can get. Like, when you get to the inverted castle, some of the relics you get for power-ups that give you new abilities or resistance to some abilities. One is the rib of Dracula, the eye of Dracula, and it's all this throwbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of the boss fights is the zombified corpses of Trevor, Sypha, and Grant.
Yep, in the inverted Coliseum.
No song.
No, regular costume.
No.
Oh no, yeah, that's right, inverted, because regular you fight werewolf and Minotaur.
It's like, that's it. You guys aren't bosses anymore. You've been downgraded to Coliseum fights.
This was their last opportunity as a boss fight.
A lot of the sprites from this game were taken from Rondo of Blood and then used in future installments. They were good sprites. I mean, what can I say?
And they informed the character design for updated sprites in the future.
It became the benchmark for the successive volumes.
The game has a lot of RPG elements, as we were just touching on. It's got a leveling system. Every time you level, your stats go up. When you kill a boss, you get your HP max up.
Which is reference to the orb that used to fall.
Yep. Throughout the castle, you can find heart container up, or heart max up. They're not heart containers, but heart max up. So your sub-weapon usage...
Playing a little bit of Breath of the Wild there.
A little bit. but your sub-weapon usage could really, really shine and whatnot. And their Alucard has a magic system. The weapons...
It's kind of wonky.
Street Fighter is what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
The weapons have some, not all weapons. Some weapons have special abilities, like the Alucard sword. You teleport to the other side of the screen and attack.
And you have the good ones, like the Sword of Dawn and the Chrysogrim.
Chrysogrim. Once you got that, just mash the button. Win.
Dual wield Chrysograms and just hold down both buttons. Everything dies.
Win the game.
Because Trav didn't get that far. When you do a single strike with a Chrysogram, it does repeated waves of slashes
it's like
in front of you.
3 or 4 strikes with one.
So you just hold it down and it's just...
Unlike
like
these two,
knife.
Unlike these two, I didn't get the chance to play this game when it was new.
That's because my PSP fucked up and I was going to lend it to him earlier this week.
When it was new, when it was 1997, because I was young and stupid and brand loyal and was like, this PlayStation thing is a passing fad, Nintendo all the way.
See, then there was me who I'm like, I will get everything.
Whereas my brand loyalty was, hey, PlayStation has good games. Nintendo's always had good stuff. Fuck Sonic. Sega, your sound chip sucks.
Unfortunately, it did.
It broke my heart when both Mega Man and the Belmont clan jumped off to a PlayStation.
And then Final Fantasy followed.
that didn't hurt my feelings nearly as much.
But
because Cloud and Squall are strictly avoidable.
Well, neither Cloud nor Squall will keep us apart.
Get that Final Fantasy IX reference.
Yep.
You were talking about the sales of this and basically the promoting of it and advertising and.
When this thing first came out in 1997 in Japan, it made all the money. It was hugely successful and all that.
It brought Konami back from the brink.
Konami turned around and went, we don't think Americans will really like it, but you twisted our arm. We're going to port it over anyway, but we're not going to do any advertising or anything. And it just came out. I think, what'd you say? It got one advertisement in a gamer magazine or something.
One per. I know there was one in EGM because my cousin Tyler used to get EGM back at that point.
Yeah,
there were probably other ones, but I actually liked EGM and thought the other magazines could go fuck themselves.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware this was a thing until several years later.
I think there was I don't know if this was I think it's the same magazine you're talking about, but it was either Final Fantasy VII on the cover or Metal Gear or something, but in the corner it had that picture of Maria and Alucard, and he's holding her, and it's what is this? It
was part of the concept art from within the booklet.
Mm-hmm. But it finally gets over here, and people start to find out about it and find out that this thing exists. And start.
It's a very rare game for the PS1.
The original PS1 cartridges are incredibly collectible, but it's been released in a bunch
of
discs.
There's a greatest hits edition, but
we'll get into discs versus cartridges another time. That's a whole.
If you can find one of the pre-greatest hits discs
super
with everything in it, that thing will go for at least $150 about 10 years ago.
This game was my very first PlayStation 1 game. I found it at basically a second-hand store. I bought the Montagnas, exactly. I found it. It was just the disc. And I put it in. I'm like, this is the most fantastic Castlevania I've played in such a long time. But I had to make my own CD case for it and everything. And it's not greatest hits, so.
And a lot of people had that same experience. But I mean, a lot of people had that same experience. Once this game kicked off, it got really popular. And since then, it has basically won all the awards.
But also, it wasn't just that game where Konami had that thought process.
You look this up, and it's every single review is 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 4.5 out of 5.
Early PS1 life cycle, for whatever reason, Konami had the thought process of fuck the US market. Look at Suikoden 1, Suikoden 2.
Very limited US.
Very limited. Then Metal Gear came out, and they said, holy crap, we have a US market. Because that game outshined their Japanese market.
Because if you look at it, the Super Nintendo was the really tail end of Konami at the time. I mean, there were some.
They had a golden age back in that.
There were some on the 64. There were some on the Sega, and then that was kind of it. But it wasn't until, like you just said there,
they had a couple of things on the GameCube, but they weren't really hits.
Not really. But
PlayStation, once they realized that was their primary market, it's where they took their stride again.
Unfortunately, that stride has come to an end, and now they're just
that has to do with
pachinko
company politics
and everything. The thing with Symphony is any Castlevania that has come out since, regardless,
except for a few examples,
like what?
Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
I've still heard Mirror of Fate compared to Symphony. A lot of the newer Castlevania Sense are compared to Symphony.
I was going to say take notes from it.
Which, a couple years later, they released on the PlayStation Castlevania Chronicles, which was a version of Castlevania 1, which was a computer version of the game. That was never released stateside. It's still it's based on the original Castlevania 1, and it doesn't feel anything or look like it looks and feels like a traditional Castlevania 1, 2, 3, 4 style, but somehow slower and not as engaging.
Yeah, and they changed Simon's setup, so now he wears bondage gear and has red hair, and evidently now that is the new canonical, that he's a redhead.
Although, if you play the original mode, he's wearing, the sprite is just horrible. He's, wearing, some yellow
It's leather.
It's
leather armor.
really, really light yellow.
It's really
And like
gladiatorial.
he's got like white hair and just looks like an old man. It's very.
Whereas in number 2, he's wearing chainmail in a tabard.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already mentioned it too. I love that chainmail and just yeah.
But getting back to Symphony.
Getting back to Symphony.
There's a lot of shout-outs to different series and everything. Like, some of the enemies you'll encounter, like the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Shmoo.
Mm-hmm.
The Shmoo?
Yes, it's also a shout-out to the Oz series.
Okay. It's also a shout-out to some of the less classic, later Flintstones cartoons.
No, they were going... Like, a lot of the enemies are references to Oz. Specifically, anyone who's in the Inverse library.
There were some naming conventions that got messed up. Cthulhu's one of them.
Moloch, which they turn into Malaki, and...
Even the sprite looks off. But
Yeah, I didn't actually get a chance to see the Cthulhu, but I ran into the
name
Malaki.
Cthulhu.
the Malaki, the one that didn't have the squid face, and it just the color scheme was off, and that might have just been where I ran into it in the castle, and the movements and the.
No, that's just how that guy moves. He's
Yeah.
very robotic.
It didn't fit with the rest of the game, which was very fluid and very organic.
A lot of the demons in the game are like that. They're very jerky and everything, which kind of gives them like they're not natural feel.
Maybe.
But also, when you're so
It
used to
gave it-
everything being fluid,
Yeah, it gave it
their
a bad
movement being
programming
jerky
feel as well.
makes it so you can't really anticipate how they'll move.
So when I was doing this playthrough earlier, I'm told this is irregular for the game, but I felt that the jump mechanic was really clunky and stiff.
Part of it's also you were using my secondary controller
You're
because
using a third-party controller.
because my primary one's battery was dead. The other controller is much more smooth.
And here we talk about third party. Another
Again,
show.
well, we've already mentioned it. Don't buy third-party.
Ever.
Period. If you can help
I
it.
didn't have the $50.
If
to
you
shell
can
out
help
that day.
it.
Yeah.
Also, I never get to play 2-player games.
Actually, real quick with the third-party thing here. The controller that he was using actually hindered him from being able to access Alucard's spells and abilities. Once in a blue moon, he could get them off, but most of the time, no.
Yeah. Which is why I said, like, hey, if you're having trouble with that one, the other one's charging.
But as Trav was pointing out, that we played this game when it first came out on the PS1. Trav is playing it on the PS3, actually.
For whatever reason, PS4 cannot play PlayStation Greatest Hits games that you have in your market.
Still don't quite understand that.
Yeah.
But there is a limited base right now to play the game. I don't even know if you can play it on Xbox, to be honest with you.
If it was on the marketplace, I don't know. I'd have to talk to someone who has an Xbox One.
I don't think it is.
I know someone who I can talk to.
From what little I've messed around with the Xbox One, I've only encountered mostly the Lords of Shadow stuff. I haven't seen any of the more classic. Now, please feel free to correct us if we're wrong in the comments down below. But as far as I know, and as far as we know, Xbox doesn't have most of the Castlevania stuff.
Aside from Lords of Shadow.
Aside from the Lords of the Shadow spin-off series.
But Greg and I have really, really fond memories of this game. It's fun. It's colorful.
It manages to be dark while still being colorful.
Yes.
With oddly, disturbingly sexy sprites at times. Like this,
I
that's butt cleavage. What are we doing?
Oh, that's even better than, or that's not nearly as good as the Flower Girl.
Flower. Oh, yes, I see what you mean.
And now Doug has to fucking do
I have
work.
to find stuff. But
Then there's also the flying witch that turns into a cat when you defeat her.
yes.
See, that's just clever.
My train of thought. The music in this game. This game is called Symphony of the Night, and the music in this game is absolutely
Trav didn't get
fantastic.
that far. He didn't get to the clock tower, which, as per Castlevania
Has
standard,
awesome
has some of the best
music.
music in the game. It is a full-blown heavy metal track.
Probably also a ton of flying Medusa hits too.
Yes.
Yes.
And sword knight, or floating sword knights. And
Invisible things and...
yeah. That stage will kill you a lot till you know what to look for. Also, good luck figuring out the puzzle to get access to the Holy Rod.
The inverted castle, the library, the name of the track's called Lost Painting. It's very...
Oh, no, I was thinking... no, that's not Blood Tears. That's... Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. But just, the music is just great. And I feel bad because when you get to Dracula at the end of the game... When I get to Dracula at the end of the game...
It's an underwhelming fight.
It is such an underwhelming fight because one of two things. One, I have the Alucard sword. Which I can just...
use that.
Oh, hold on. I can just do the ability, get to the other side of the screen. It goes by pretty quick. I have the Chrysogram, as he was mentioning earlier. Slice and dice. It's over. Or, the most broken combo in the game, the Alucard shield and the shield rod. Activating the two together allows you to take no damage, heal yourself, get full hearts, and just kill things. Like, insanely, it does like 256 damage, because that's their...
I didn't get far enough to know what this particular item is actually called, but I definitely heard Chrysogram, which makes me think... Yeah, Chrysogram makes me think our music composer is going to show up dressed like a bellhop with a box of candy asking for Mongo here in a second.
I broke that fight just for the irony factor. I got enough money to buy the duplicator item, which is an accessory. When you use it, any usable item that would be used up isn't used up. I had a Power of Sire, which is a poster or a picture of Vlad Tepes that does damage to people. So it's like, hey, Dad, look, die.
And here's the thing, though.
And I just kept spamming, Dad, look at yourself.
The fight is over so quick to me.
Captain Deckard Sharp, have you seen this woman?
Yes, I have. Normally she's wearing more clothes than that. I'm happier when she's wearing more clothes than that.
That's a war story, though.
It is a war story.
Only if a Demented Louisian tart brings in a Demented Louisian tart.
But I don't actually really know the final battle music because it's over that so quick.
It's not the standard.
It's not the Dance
of Pails.
Is this also the Castlevania game that sort of set the precedent of the titles having musical themes?
Yes, it did. And actually, at the time when this came out on the PlayStation,
a lot of precedents.
Mm-hmm. It was all EGA games that followed.
The PlayStation. If you put this in your PlayStation with the lid up and then hit the button, it would bring up the CD player before it would go load the game.
Or if you just put it in a CD player.
Well, hold on. I'm getting to that. And then you get a message from the voice actor from Alucard that says, hey, cut number 1 contains computer data. Don't play it.
This may damage your disc if you listen to it, but you're probably not going to listen to me.
And then the third track on the disc is, I think it's actually called Symphony of the Night. Mm-hmm. That's the only place you can hear this track. On the PlayStation, you can't play track 1, but if you put it in a CD player, and if you ever put a non-music thing in the CD player,
I have.
The worst sound in the world comes out. But, yes, I could go on all day about this game.
And he have. Believe me, he has.
Also, for the added bonus, there's 3 endings to this game. First of all, if you can't figure out how to actually beat the mid-boss, you get the bad ending.
No, there's like 4 endings.
Besides the you die.
No, 5 endings. Okay, the mid-boss.
Okay, I
Spoiler
forgot.
alert. It's Richter.
Spoiler.
If you don't figure out how...
Spoiler for a 20-year-old game.
If you don't figure out how to break the mind control on Richter, you get 1 ending. If you do figure out how to break the mind control on Richter, and you kill him anyways, you get the 2nd ending.
Yep. If you kill Richter, if you find out how to save Richter and still kill him, that's 2.
If you do not get 198% completion, and you defeat
150, I think it is.
I think it's 190.
I think it's 100.
Oh, we'll look it up later. We'll post a correction.
It's over 100%, I can tell you that much.
I think it'd be more complete than complete.
Inverse castle. 100% of one castle, 100% of the other.
That's not how math works.
Welcome to Castlevania.
That's not how any of this works.
It is its own living creature, and it moves as it wants to.
It does math its own.
You didn't get that far.
Thank you, H.P. Lovecraft.
No, it's actually one of the things that Alucard says to Mario, and she goes, I've been here before, but nothing's where it should be. This the creature of chaos. It moves and changes as it wishes. Mm-hmm. But if you get 100, I'm going to go and say 175 to be in an in-between. Poster correction below.
Yep.
If you don't get that much, you get the ending where Alucard goes, I must seal this accursed bloodline. Goodbye forever. Emo.
Emo, pass me
And
the
then
razor.
Richter's like,
Are you
gonna
going
go after him? She's
No.
like, nah.
No, his cursed heart is too troubled.
But in
And
order
then-
to fix the trouble, she goes and...
If you get over the percentile that we'll have posted below, she goes, I must go after him. He goes, I understand.
She's gonna go get some Alucard dick.
Which is where the Belmont bloodline came from in the first place.
But she's not a Belmont.
She's not a Belmont. She's
Sonya.
not.
Yeah, I know, but Maria is not a...
Right.
Right. Sonya's been since
So depending on how
retcon.
that works, there might be a secondary bloodline out there. Non-Belmont.
Yes, maybe. I don't know.
Except they retconned Trevor being Alucard's son.
Yes.
As a thing, so.
But if he ended up he did shack up with Maria. Yeah, I don't know. Because
You're gonna have this weird empathic, like, animal talking vampire people.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd
so
play
you're
that
gonna have
game.
anyone with animalism.
Oh, I'd play that game. You know
But-
the other game I would like to play? Give me a good futuristic Metroidvania where the castle turns into like a bunch of skyscrapers and you got Dracula in a power suit doing the full Ventrue thing.
I'm just here thinking, like, I don't care about the Venture or anything. Go and throw me Dracula from the Castlevania series. He'll go and wipe the floor with the World of Darkness.
Oh yeah.
And all I can think now, too, is Lords of Shadow 2 in the future, and the power
Yeah,
suit.
never mind. Abort everything I just
Abort
said.
everything.
Oof.
But
Hold
we
on.
played through the game. We enjoyed it. Trav hasn't really played through actually even a eighth of the game.
I got to the second boss. It was fun. It was enjoyable. If
We
I were
walked
still,
him through it.
Yeah, if I were still like 9, I could probably sit in front of this thing for hours at a time. Now I have grown-up responsibilities.
I still can with grown-up responsibility.
That game is on my PSP when I can get it installed again. Which is why I was thinking, you have it for the PSP. You could have won that, Tim.
I do not have it for the PSP.
Yeah, you have Dracula X Chronicles, which
I have
has...
Dracula X.
which you can unlock Symphony of the Night.
Which is actually smaller
Yep.
than it would be buying it on the PlayStation Store. But with that, have a good night.
Good night and good gaming.
Good gaming. And